Because I am the Doctor, and this is my swoop.
Alright folks, Rick Wall came back again, looking at Series 8, Episode 3 of Doctor Who, The Robot of Sherwood. You know, get it? Play on Robin of Sherwood. Yeah, punny title aside, I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, we got Mark Gatiss back right and he just nails it again. I mean, when Moffat leaves, I vote for him to take the top job. Also, as it's a Robin Hood episode, decided to give Dalek Alpha the week off and brought in Green Arrow to replace him. You know, give it that sort of Sherwoody feel. Anyway, on to the review proper. Okay, so essentially we've got two plots for this episode. We've got, you know, your robot-y Doctor Who-y plot, then you've got your traditional Robin Hood plot. Starts off, first half of the episode essentially is all the Robin Hood-y stuff. You know, the fight on the bridge over the water, the archery contest, the hanging out with a band of merry men, the splitting the arrow, which of course, not actually possible. We've seen that on Mythbusters. They tested it, they disproved it. The big fight scene against all the soldiers, and then they got captured. And that's all where the Doctor Who plot sort of takes over. We've got robots with a broken ship, power-hungry warlord who wants to, you know, use these robots to his nefarious end to get power and wealth and blah-de-blah. All the usual guff that you get with the big villain types there. And the Doctor has to use his brain to actually stop them. Using, in this case, bronze shields or bronze plates to reflect the blasts back at the robots. Perfectly good Doctor Who-y thing. Really reminiscent of the old show. Maybe a bit of Time Warrior or things like that. Yeah. And then we've got the two plots that come together. Where it's the Robin Hood big duel with the sheriff at the end, and the ship taking off, and them having to use the Chekhov's golden arrow to actually, you know, shoot it down, blow it up, save the day. Neither plot's super original, but they're both done so well. So well scripted, so well performed, so well executed by all the technical staff. Everything was just spot on and hung together perfectly. It gave us plenty of character developing moments. So, yeah, not original, but really good. Peter Capaldi was so good in this episode. I mean, if you had any doubts of him as the Doctor before, they must be gone by now. He just hit it this episode. Perfect. I mean, we get to see the difference between him and Robin Hood, and by extension that, all the more swashbuckling versions of himself. How he doesn't play at being jolly anymore. I also really like the bickering between him and Robin. I know it may have gone on a bit much for some people, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, it reminded me, I know this is a little bit lowbrow, but it reminded me of the Captain N, the Game Master, and Legend of Zelda crossover cartoon, where Link and Captain N bickered constantly. I know, not a classic show, but that was a classic episode, and for the same reason the bickering worked here. You know, it's what I suppose you'd now call a bromance. And it included that epic line, "Shut it, Hoodie." He just delivered that line so well. It just cracked me up. Loved that one moment so much. And the way the Doctor was convinced Robin was a fake. I thought he was going to turn out to be, you know. Or one of these big build-ups to the moment where he says, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Does it matter if I'm being the hero? Which, hey, we've seen that before, we've seen what happened before. But no, I loved the fact that it was actually the real Robin. But we're getting off the Doctor. The fact that the Doctor was wrong about that. Also, the scenes where he was trying to prove it was so good. They were so funny. You know, stealing hair, checking the shoes. That was fun. And yeah, I can't really let this go without mentioning the duel, can I? I mean, we've seen the Doctor duel many times. The 5th, the 3rd, the 10th, they've all had a go at the whole thing. But never, I don't think ever before in the history of Doctor Who, have we seen him do it with a spoon. I defy you to watch that and not actually think the line, "Ah, so you've played knifey spoony before." Okay. Now, I know I've been a bit hard on Clara these last few weeks. You know, she's been getting more and more screen time, more than the Doctor, in solving the problem more than the Doctor. And I've hated that. And I've hated how arrogant she's been getting. Well, I still hate that in this episode where she takes, charge and she's seen as the one in charge of both Robin and the Doctor. Still don't like that. Still being given too much. It's not the Clara Oswald show. It's Doctor Who. The Doctor should always be the focus. But, I will say in this episode, she actually was a lot better. I mean, we got to see her as the fangirl, the Robin Hood fangirl, and according to Robin, she was the Doctor Who fangirl as well. So that was good. And it related her back to being less than the Doctor. Not less than the Doctor, but the Doctor was, the main character still, and all the focus on him, where it should be. And that line about believing in possible heroes, and when did you start believing in possible heroes? Don't you know? That was a really good moment. I mean, that sort of allayed a few of my fears and complaints over the last few weeks about, why is she still with the Doctor? And it's, she's the Doctor fangirl and she's, believing in the impossible hero. Which, yeah, much better this time round. Still not my favourite person in the show. But I didn't want her to get kicked out of the TARDIS this week. Which is a vast improvement over the last two. Right, so I'm going to look at Robin and his men together. Mostly because Merry Men didn't really get much screen time or much character development. But yeah, Alan and Dale got to play the lute a bit, and we got them introductions for them. Alan actually even got to, tell the plot a bit in minstrel form, which I liked. But other than that, we were essentially just introduced to them, and they were left behind. So we got Will Scarlet, Friar Tuck, Alan Dale, Little John, and a dwarf. So yeah, that's they all deserve that mention, but that's them done. We're moving on to Robin, who's, the key player here. He's cocky, egocentric, he's a show-off, but then so's the Doctor. And it's shown that he takes care of his men, and that he really cares about the poor of England. He's actually built into the proper hero legend status. So yeah, that was all good. He hides his sadness, fights because he failed to save the woman he loves. He wisecracks as he goes through these fights. I mean, he's essentially the original superhero. But then he always was the original superhero. And he gets presented as the Doctor's equal, which I know some people could be a bit about, but I actually accept that. I like that. I'm more than happy to go with that fact. And, he's a legend. So, yeah. I also think there's room for him to reappear. he could make an interesting recurring character. I mean, he could never be spun off into his own show because, he's got his own mythos that can work for. But as an occasional recurring character, that could be interesting. Okay, next up, the sheriff. Now, this is my first time actually looking at the main villain character. Mostly because it's my first chance to really look at a good villain character. And he's such an important character and played so well by Ben Miller. Big fan of Ben Miller. If you get the chance to watch him in Death in Paradise, awesome. I mean, light-hearted stuff, but still awesome. And in this, he's the classic British villain. He's, refined, power-crazed, precise, callous, and just so arrogant. He can be creepy, threatening, funny, sometimes all at the same time. I mean, when he does the whole today Nottingham, tomorrow Derby, then Lincoln, and then the world. It's, ham-fisted, but still so awesome and delivered so perfectly. And looking at him and the way he's actually played, I really think Ben Miller would be a great choice for the Master if they brought him back. I really want them to bring the Master back. He's my favourite Doctor Who villain. The Anthony Ainley Master, that is, which is the one that Ben Miller so reminded me of in this. Right from the looks to the mannerisms to the voice even. And frankly, I was actually shocked at the end when Missy didn't save him. I expected him to appear in heaven. But we got a reference to the Promised Land from the robot, so at least there's still that little thread going. Even though I actually like standalone episodes too. Because I've always said standalone episodes are just, a big plot arc that you can tell in one story. Which is a storytelling skill in itself. Yeah, so Ben Miller, big thumbs up from me. Bring him back. Bring him back, Moffat. You hear me? Bring him back. For me, this was the best episode in the series so far. Only 3 episodes, so that's not saying much, but really loved this episode. It was a great take on Robin Hood. Something I'm surprised Doctor Who hasn't actually looked at before. But I don't think it has. Not in any I can remember anyway. Not properly. Not Robin Hood himself. And I am still a little sad that another hero was taking away the Doctor's glory again. I mean, we've had Rusty, we've had the Paternoster gang. Now we've got Robin Hood and it seems in every episode Clara's doing it. But I think they can get away with it this time. Robin was always presented as his equal, and Robin's a proper legend. A real legend, and the Doctor's the equal, so yeah, that I think works acceptably. So yeah, really good episode, really well told, slight niggles, but yeah, we got to see Patrick Troughton in flashback form as Robin Hood as well, which is always good. As such, I can't give the episode a 10. There were just some flaws that pulled it down a little bit, but it gets a well-deserved 9 out of 10. This episode will take some topping next week. Let's hope it can do that. Until then, see they.
What is this place? Why am I here? I sense great power beyond these walls.
What Skeletor sent this time? Whoa, strange creature. If you want to get into Grayskull, you have to get past me.
Exterminate! Exterminate! Exterminate!
So, you want to play then? Okay. By the power of Grayskull!